You're watching CGTV, Community Government Television, Channel 11, Pitkin County, City of Aspen, and Town of Snowmass Village.
The City of Aspen, established in 1881, has over 220 full-time employees, a number that swells to more than 425 with the addition of seasonal and temporary workers. Organized into more than 20 departments, the City of Aspen provides major amenities like parks, a rec center, and open space, and services like utilities and police and Kids First to its residents and visitors. From the golf course to the Community Development Department, the Wheeler Opera House to the Parking Department, the City of Aspen and its employees strive to do the best job possible. A major goal of the city is keeping open communication between the government and the citizens. Welcome to City Matters, a show where the city does matter, and matters of the city are brought to you. Hi, and welcome to City Matters. I'm Mitzi Rapkin, Director of Community Relations for the City of Aspen, and today we're going to talk about an exciting new affordable housing project. My guests today are Chris Everson, Affordable Housing Project Manager for the City of Aspen. Welcome.
Hi, Mitzi.
And Jason Bradshaw, the lead developer for Aspen Housing Partners. Welcome.
Thank you.
So this is a unique deal that we're doing for some rental housing. It's a public-private partnership. So first, can you tell me, what is the Aspen Housing Partnership?
The Aspen Housing Partnership, as you alluded to, is a public-private partnership between the City of Aspen and my company, which is Aspen Housing Partners, LLC. And there are many benefits that we can get into that, that this public-private partnership would bring.
Okay. So why did the city choose to go this direction in the next housing development?
As part of the city's ongoing work on the affordable housing program, in the summer of 2015, we did some community outreach that helped the City Council determine that they wanted to create new rental affordable workforce housing at these 3 sites in town. So as an outcome of that, the city sent out a request for proposals, and we evaluated numerous proposals for developers to create these affordable housing units and to go ahead and manage them and operate them over the course of a 15-year period. After that 15-year period, the city can choose to continue that relationship, or the city can buy back the facility. So it allows the city the opportunity to have great flexibility in the way we manage this affordable housing going forward.
So you mentioned 3 properties. What are the properties?
The properties that the city owns that are scheduled for this development are at 802 West Main Street, which is at the end of Main Street at the S-curves. Also up at 517 Park Circle, which is at the top of the hill where the Hunter Creek bus goes around the corner. And then also at 488 Castle Creek, which is across the street from the hospital. It is just up the hill on the left-hand side as you go past the crosswalk.
So these are 3 parcels that are scheduled for these rental units. They've already gone through council, and council has agreed they wanted rental units there. So what is the benefit of this public-private partnership? I'm just wondering if you can talk more about the logistics and why maybe it's more advantageous than having the city finance it on their own, that sort of thing.
Well, I think each side brings tremendous value to the development. Would you like me to just kind of list out what I think, and then you can?
Sure.
Okay. So from the private side, I think the main thing that we bring is we bring a capital source in the form of tax credits and debt. We lead the process in figuring out the best way to structure that, arrange all of this, so that the city is not having to spend its own financial and human resources to try to figure this out. Similarly, with all 3 of these properties have to go through an entitlement process. So that is another task that we would lead out on. Again, keeping the city from having to, spend money and allocate human resources to that task. Then once you get into construction, the private side steps in and takes on all the financial risk in this transaction. So if there are cost overruns during construction, that risk is borne by the private side. Once you get into operation of the project, the private side would lead out on property management, asset management, so making sure that deferred maintenance does not build up on these properties. And again, just trying to alleviate the burden of operating these facilities from the city. I feel like what the city of Aspen brings to this are 3 great sites. The cost of these sites, if they weren't held by a public institution, these deals would not work. The other thing is that the city brings is their affordable housing dollars, which will go into subsidize the part of the total capital required to do the project that is not covered by the tax credits and the debt that the private side will bring to the table.
Sure. And on the city side, this saves us a great deal in terms of the effort, the public resources that would be necessary to go about this effort. We're basically using Jason and his team to perform a lot of the actions that the city would need to perform on our own. We would have the ability to do this on our own if we needed to. However, it would tie up a lot of city resources, human resources, capital. We would probably need to hire some consultants to help us with the effort, to help us manage the effort, which we've done on other housing projects, but being able to accomplish this without having to tie up a lot of our public resources actually allows the city to go out about other business that we still need to tend to while this is occurring. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that Jason and his team are just running around doing this without oversight from the city. I'm heavily involved in the project. Barry Crook, Assistant City Manager, is heavily involved in terms of oversight as well. So it is what it says it is. It's a partnership, and we're working together to help bring benefit to the community.
So I think when this idea began, which was several years ago, you did do some outreach, I remember. So there were some public meetings, and I remember you showed the properties and asked some questions, preliminary questions about rentals and dogs and that sort of thing. So what kind of outreach have you done so far, and what do you think is next?
The outreach that we performed last summer was a lot more like, how should we use these sites? Should we consider rental housing, being that we've recently done some for sale affordable housing? And so we wanted to get an idea from the community if everybody was on board with utilizing these sites in a certain manner. And so now our focus coming up is a lot more on the conceptual designs for these sites themselves, trying to make sure that we're doing a good job of harmonizing with the neighborhoods. So taking public input on the conceptual designs and how we're going to use these sites to create this affordable housing. It's really the next step in the progression.
I think, it's very important, I think, in this joint effort that there is a lot of transparency with the community in how we're going about this. So as I think a lot of people have seen, we have public outreach that's going to occur in January and March. And we will get into more detail as this, kind of 3-month period goes on. But initially, we need to figure out just what the correct balance is between. Everyone understands that the maximum number of units will be used in this community in affordable housing, but that needs to be weighed against other neighborhood issues. I think there needs to be an open dialogue, and that's what we're addressing with regard to just how we go about developing each one of these sites so that, it's a win-win for the entire community.
Right. So the demand is there. You could build a skyrise,
yes,
but that's not going to happen.
Right.
So on these 3 lots, do you know how big they are, or what? If you were seeing single homes, would they be like 2 or 3 single homes per lot? Are we talking like the size of this table? Do you know the general specs?
Yeah, the lots could be used for single-family homes, or they could be used for duplexes. In the case of 488 Castle Creek, that lot actually has been subdivided in the past, so I think that lot could be used for potentially 2 separate duplexes, a total of 4 units. We are going to be requesting as part of our development application and land use application that the sites be rezoned for multifamily. That is part of what we want to vet with the community in terms of the public outreach that we're having today, in fact, and also on January 11th. After we do this initial round of public outreach, we're going to bring our findings to the City Council on February 14th, talk to City Council about how they want to make any adjustments to the proposed developments. Then we're going to do another round of public outreach in March. Hopefully the designs at that point will be a little better honed based on the input that we've received. And then on March 28th, we're going to meet with City Council one final time and sort of say, are you comfortable with the way things have gone? Are you comfortable with us packaging this up into a development application and submitting it? And from there, we would embark on a land use entitlements process, which would be a lot like any other development in town.
Right. So can you guys name some of the goals of the project? I mean, you could say that a goal of the project is to house as many people as possible, but clearly that isn't one of the goals because you want it to fit in with the neighborhood or you want it to, still be livable. So what are sort of the outset before really hearing from the public some of the goals that you think this can achieve?
I think we went into responding to the RFP with, the goal being provide the ability for the community to accept the maximum number of units at the lowest cost to the city. Now that we're, into the process, I think, those goals we need to figure out what the balance is between those goals. So I think that's the main, money cannot. I don't think money is the end of the day issue with this project. I think it's balancing the dollars spent on this project with, creating the needed housing, but at a level that I think everyone would be comfortable with.
I think it's cliche to use the word balance, but I think it's the best way to explain it. When I think about the stakeholders in the community, I see users of the affordable housing system who enjoy the opportunity to live in the community where they work. We see certain benefits to that in the community. I also see non-users of the affordable housing program who often pay into the real estate transfer tax. So really the funding source for the creation of this affordable housing comes from a lot of folks who don't use the system. So for their benefit, the city needs to be careful that we're using those funds efficiently, which might say that we need to build as much housing as possible with it, but there's also the folks who live in the neighborhoods who are impacted by additional development. And so we want to make sure that we try to balance the needs of all those different community groups that are involved.
So when your company came in for the RFP, why did you choose Aspen? Why did you select this project?
I've been coming out here for close to 20 years, and I guess it was 2 or 3 summers ago. We were here on vacation, and it was a period of time where it seemed like every other day there was some op-ed piece or article in one of the 2 newspapers, saying we need affordable housing, and so my involvement started with a call to Barry Crook, asking how the city was looking at the use of rental affordable housing, and if I could have a meeting with him. That, coincidentally coincided with Chris doing this public outreach and kind of coming back to council with their findings and determining that, yes, we want to deliver affordable housing on a rental basis and that we want to put this RFP out. So, all of those factors kind of came together, in kind of a neat way, which has kind of landed us where we are.
And Jason's group proposed the right solution for what the city and the city council was looking for. We did have a handful of proposals that were proposing the type of long-term involvement in terms of operation and management, procuring the low-income housing tax credits, performing all the financing for us. But in the end, it was really the flexibility of Jason's team, the Aspen Housing Partners team, that was one of the reasons why they were selected, was because if we need to make changes as we go through this process, we need to go about this public outreach process in an earnest way, right? We can't just put something out there and be unwilling to make changes to it. So it was that sentiment that the city needs to have was really reflected in Aspen Housing Partners' proposal and the follow-up conversations that we had with them. So it was really that flexibility that helped us make that selection.
So this had been your business, the
Yes.
affordable housing business. And can you talk a little bit about why it's, like how it works? You don't have to get deep into it, but
Sure.
there's tax credits involved and...
Yeah, so basically, if you have a development that you want to pursue, if you will commit to providing all or some percentage of the units in your project to people earning 60% or less of the county's median income, and you will commit to adhering to a rent schedule that is dictated by HUD, the government has a program that will allow you to take affordable housing tax credits. As the developer, you take these affordable housing tax credits and you can sell them. You can sell them directly to corporations that would need the tax benefits of the tax credit, or you can sell them to funds and that is my partner, a company called Stratford Capital Group that buys tax credits from these development opportunities. Basically, that money comes into the project and becomes a source of funds to develop the project. And you pair that with a debt instrument that are used, mainly tax-exempt bonds that are used in the development of tax credit developments.
So as you move forward and you start with conceptual, because this is a partnership, do you choose an architect together? Do you come with an architect? How does that part work?
I think Chris would agree with this. One of the things that I thought was very important, I've just moved to Aspen this year, and was not living in Aspen when I pursued this project. But I felt it was very important, and I feel this with every project that I do, that I brought very well established and regarded local participants to be on my deal team. So, for example, our architect is David Johnson and Associates. Adam Roy is with method planning and development. He is our land use consultant. Connect One is our landscape architect. So we brought all of these. This team was assembled and presented as part of the RFP process, so that the council could understand. Okay, this is you're biting off a big project here. There's a lot of moving parts here. It's an entitlement process that is not going to happen in a couple of months. We felt like we needed to be very upfront with who our team was going to be to execute this.
Yeah, and so it was important to the folks at the city and to the city council that there's a local component to the folks who are actually going to be creating these designs, an understanding of these neighborhoods, an understanding of the community, how the process works. Aspen's very unique, as everybody knows. So Jason's really the only new guy in town here.
So obviously the need is there. I think in 2012, the city of Aspen conducted a study and concluded something like over 650 new affordable workhouse units were needed. And that's within the urban growth boundary. So how does this project address the need? I mean, I don't really know if you're talking about 100 units or 30 units or 10 units.
Sure. It remains to be seen exactly how many units there will be. But we think it will be somewhere between 40, 50 units. Again, rentals. These are going to be long-term rentals. They will be part of the Aspen-Pitkin County Housing Authority inventory. They will be managed and operated by Jason's organization, Aspen Housing Partners. So a lot of the rental facilities that exist in town, the majority are privately owned and operated. So we wanted to try to create that same model again, where we had privately owned and operated facilities, albeit on a long-term land lease from the city of Aspen. So we're just looking to increase the number of rental units under the umbrella of the Aspen-Pitkin County Housing Authority. The Aspen-Pitkin County Housing Authority range of incomes that are served is broader than the 60% area median income or less. So interestingly, like the low-income housing tax credit program will consider the units that are above 60% area median income, but which are still under the umbrella of the Aspen-Pitkin County Housing Authority. They'll consider them to be market rate units, which is interesting because we here still consider them, workforce affordable housing units. So it really is sort of the city's getting what it needs out of this partnership and out of the program by using the pieces of it that are germane to our program that exists here.
And this is the fact that the city of Aspen, in partnership with Aspen Housing Partners, the fact that we would be able to pull off a deal that has the breadth of incomes available to the market is pretty unique. The fact that Aspen has this affordable housing pool of money to use to subsidize that type of development is rare across the country. As we've discussed, the tax credit tool only provides funding up to providing housing for people making 60% of median income or less. It becomes very difficult when you start trying to build housing for people making 60 to 120% of median income. The tools for that level of affordable housing don't exist unless there is something like the affordable housing fund that the city has.
Right.
So basically, if you decided to have a Category 6 or person in there, they still wouldn't be paying like $3,000 like for a house in Aspen or something, correct? So everything in there is still under the APSHA guidelines.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So Chris mentioned that your company will be managing it. I think that's for 15 years?
15 years, yes.
And so you collect the rent, you shovel the snow.
Yes.
And then after 15 years, what happens?
So after 15 years, it's up to the city as to what direction the project goes. The city has the right, through our agreement with them, to buy the project back at basically whatever debt is on the project at the 15-year mark. So that's one option that the city would have. And from there, once the city owns it, they could sell the units as affordable condominiums. They could continue to rent them on their own, using APSHA as the manager. Or I guess the third option on the table would be to re-up and re-up the tax credits for another 15-year period, basically redevelop the project and run it in this fashion that we're discussing right now for another 15 years.
And that's actually what the city just did at Aspen Country Inn, was to refinance the facility after a 15-year period under the low-income housing tax credit program. And APSHA will continue to manage Aspen Country Inn for the next 15 years under that program. So really the three different options that Jason just outlined helps to give the city a lot of flexibility in where we want to go after that 15-year period, given that the dynamics of the affordable housing program may have changed by that time. So it gives us some flexibility there.
So I know right now we're in January 2017. And the council has said, go ahead, get your public input. So where are we exactly with the project, and what are some of the next steps?
The timeline that we've, internally kind of been working from would indicate that we're going to be in public outreach, probably through March. And then if all goes well and everybody is comfortable that there's buy-in by, kind of all components of the community, then we would endeavor to put together a zoning application. Ideally, we would like to have the zoning application be processed by the end of 2018, at the end of 2017, and be able to start construction, in the spring of 2018.
And so the zoning will come before conceptual?
No. So through the public outreach process, we will be, proving out the conceptual drawings of the project. There'll be a bit of time before we put the zoning applications together, where we'll probably need to do a little more architectural work that will be required depending on what zoning application we end up using. And then from there, it's kind of the timeline, as much as we want to control it, is not completely controllable, but we're going to do our best to make that zoning process as efficient as we can make it, and I think the city feels the same, so that we can be in a position to deliver these units as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we want to try to submit our low-income housing tax credit applications in early 2018. That takes time for those applications to process. So hopefully we will be able to start construction in 2018 and maybe have people moving in early 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And these, obviously, they're very individual sites, so you might find that you can have a lot of density on the Castle Creek site because it's not quite in the city and it doesn't have as many neighbors, versus something on Park Circle where it might be not as dense. So you're not doing any sort of formula. Each site is its own site.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And we plan to take input from folks in the community on the sites individually. So if you come to our open house on January 5th or January 11th, you'll see that there are displays for each of the different sites. So if you're only concerned about the site in your neighborhood, you can comment only on that site if you like to. Or you can comment on all of the sites if you have an opinion on how those designs fit into those neighborhoods. So we're really taking input from the community, consolidating that input, bringing it to City Council, so that City Council has an understanding of how folks feel about each site individually.
And is there a general email for the project if people are interested in sending information? Or?
Yeah, and it's on all of the. We've been putting posters up. There is, I think it's aspenhousingpartnership.com is a website.
Okay.
And there is a link for each site to provide input or questions, depending on which site you're interested in.
Okay. So aspenhousingpartnership.com is a place to go for information. If you need more information about the city, you can go to aspenpitkin.com. Thank you so much for being on the show, and I look forward to seeing what goes up.
Very good.
Thanks
for having us.
Thanks.
You're watching CGTV, Community Government Television, Channel 11, Pitkin County, City of Aspen, and Town of Snowmass Village.
The City of Aspen, established in 1881, has over 220 full-time employees, a number that swells to more than 425 with the addition of seasonal and temporary workers. Organized into more than 20 departments, the City of Aspen provides major amenities like parks, a rec center, and open space, and services like utilities and police and Kids First to its residents and visitors. From the golf course to the Community Development Department, the Wheeler Opera House to the Parking Department, the City of Aspen and its employees strive to do the best job possible. A major goal of the city is keeping open communication between the government and the citizens. Welcome to City Matters, a show where the city does matter, and matters of the city are brought to you.